Changing the oil on your BMW S1000XR is so simple, and I'm going to show you how to change the oil and of course how to reset the service indicator light. Super easy, super fun. Let's get straight into this. That's right, my 2016 BMW S1000XR, well, it's my dad's, not really mine, but I'm gonna say it's mine because it's just easier. This bike is due for an oil change. It's been due for an oil change for a pretty long time now, and I've just been kind of putting it off. We haven't been using it very much, but it is now time to finally change the oil. So what I'm gonna be doing today is I'm gonna show y'all how to change the oil on your BMW S1000XR of this generation. First gen, not the new one. I don't know how different it is. It might be the same, might be different. I don't know, but I'm gonna show you how to change the oil and do everything correctly on this bike. Now, it should be noted that this is pretty much the same engine as the S1000RR and the S1000R. So in theory, it should be the same process, but for the sake of caution, I suggest you go find a video dedicated to that bike if you have a RR or a single R. But the oil change on this bike is really simple, really easy, straightforward process. Like most bikes, it's a smaller engine. It doesn't really require a lot of tools, time, effort, or energy. It's very simple. Let's get straight into this. Now, of course, what you're gonna need is some oil. So I'm gonna go ahead, open up this box, and show y'all what we have in here. This is an entire oil change kit that I got online, and I'll put a link to the entire kit down below in the description so you guys can check it out. Basically, it brings 4 liters of oil because you only need 3.5 liters. It brings a brand new oil filter right here and a brand new crush washer. Do not reuse the old crush washer. Opening this up right here, we got, of course, the oil filter like I just said. Very nice, brand new. And of course with that brand new O-ring rubber. Awesome. That looks great. I'm super excited to put this on. We also got, like I said, the crush washer. Don't throw it away. Don't lose it. Make sure that you have it and try not to, if at all possible, to reuse the old crush washer. And of course, we have our BMW MotoRevs Advantic Ultimate SAE 5W40 original BMW engine oil. We got 4 liters of this, but we're only gonna need 3.5 liters to put in the bike. Now, tools that you need are pretty simple. Mechanical tools, that is. You're gonna need a 50mm Torx to put in for the drain plug. You're gonna need a little Torx and some little trim piece tools, maybe, to remove the bottom fairing for the oil filter, which you can see is right there. I don't know why they put it there. That's a really, I mean, I guess it makes sense because it's the only location for it, but you do have to remove the lower fairing, which is not all that bad at all. And of course, you need a torque wrench just for the drain plug and the oil filter, just to make sure that you have the right torque so you don't over tighten it or under tighten it. And then to reset the light, you will actually need one of these little computers. The one that I have here is the Hex GS911. One of our friends actually had a GS, and he had this to reset all the lights and work and service on the bike itself. And then he sold the GS and he no longer had a use for it, so he gave it to us. Very big thanks. But I'm gonna be using this to clear the service indicator and to reset the actual service indicator to let me know when to change the oil again, maybe in around 3,000, 3,500 miles, somewhere around there. And you will need a computer or a laptop, which I of course have right here. So I'm gonna plug this into this computer, and with the software, I'm going to reset the light for the service, because of course every time you turn the bike on, the service indicator shows up in your face and it is very annoying. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to remove the lower fairing, right? And then once I have that, I'm gonna get my oil drain pan right underneath, and then the oldest trick in the book, I'm going to turn the bike on, which by the way is a blessing for our ears. I mean, we have ears to listen to this bike. It's unreal. But I'm gonna turn the bike on and get the engine a little bit warm, of course the oil a little bit warmer as well, so that it drips out way easier than if it were cold and a little bit thicker, right? So I'm gonna heat up the oil just a little bit. Okay, maybe a little bit more than a little bit, but I'm gonna get it warm so that it flows out a lot easier, and then we can start putting everything back on and putting the new oil in. All right, first things first, I'm gonna get a 25mm Torx and start removing the lower fairings.
Dreaming in the dark, we are nothing more than dust.
All right, so I'm taking the clips off now, and what you gotta do is you gotta line up like some sort of, I got an Allen right here, put it in the middle, and then actually just get like a little mallet and just tap it in. It goes inwards, and then of course this pops out. So go ahead and do that for these 3. I assume this one in the middle is the same. It might not be. I believe it actually might be a plastic screw. So I'm gonna see about that. But I'm gonna get that side off real quick and then figure out the one in the middle.
Yes, that's the part you want.
And okay, there we go. I got this off, but you can see there are 2 little drains right there. You just, pop those off with your hands, and the whole thing, oh, there we go, comes right off. This one actually don't have to take off. I think it just connects the 2 halves together. No need to remove that one. So you can just have this entire thing as one big piece and remove that. But now finally you can see we can access the oil filter right here. And by the way, when you remove the oil filter or go to remove the oil filter, make sure there's some sort of like slide per se for the oil to run off. because you can see, obviously, if the oil filter just gets loosened, all the oil goes straight onto the exhaust, which would really, really suck. So what I'm gonna do is probably get some aluminum foil or something like that and just make like a little slide to make this, you know, the oil run off around the exhaust, over it, not on top of it. That would be really, really bad. But now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the bike on with the full titanium Akrapovic exhaust, which sounds unreal. But I'm gonna turn it on, let it idle for a bit, give it a few revs just to get the oil a little bit loose and warm. This obviously, like I said, helps it flow out a lot easier. But yeah, take a listen. All right, so as y'all heard and may have seen, it's warm. The bike should be pretty warm now, or not pretty warm, but it should be a little bit warmer than cold, hopefully, right? And yeah, it literally spits flames. I mean, this bike is literally a fire-breathing monster. Unreal. It sounds unreal. The camera does absolutely no justice. But now it is time to finally start draining the oil. All right, before we do anything though, make sure to go ahead and loosen this guy up so that we can release some of the pressure. I'm gonna go ahead and open it. It's gonna be a little tough because, well, there's not a lot of room, but I'm just gonna go ahead and open this up. All right, there we go, finally got it off, but it was an absolute pain. It was on really, really tightly for some reason, but I got it off. Now, of course, there should be no pressure whenever you go to release the oil. Like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and get my 50mm Torx for the drain plug right there. I'm gonna try not to touch the exhaust, but it's right there. I'm gonna unscrew that and let it all flow right into here. All right, so the oil is drained, and looking at it, the oil's literally, it's like brand new. There was really no need to change it. You guys might have seen, it was like light brown, see-through, totally clear, and I have these two in my garage right now. But yeah, this oil was really not that bad at all, but you know, maybe yours is worse. Anyway, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over to the oil filter and remove the oil filter, like I said, making like a little slide for the oil to get off of, because if it gets on the exhaust, that would, like I said, really suck. So I'm gonna find a way of making sure the oil from here comes down onto here. I can start by doing this, and then now, of course, let's find a way to override the exhaust. All right, I got my drain plug right here. I'm gonna take off the old crush washer, put that aside, don't reuse it. I'm gonna clean this up, make sure it's nice and clean, no more oil on it. There we go, brand new, clean. Now I'm gonna get my new crush washer, put it on, and of course, I'm just gonna put this on hand tight just for now, right back where it was. All right, I've made a really janky, like, aluminum foil slide right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my oil filter wrench, which you should probably get. I'm gonna put that on and then pop it off, of course, get it loose with the wrench, and then start taking it off with my hands. After that, hopefully I can take off the entire thing, and all of the oil should hopefully go into here. I'm really hoping. I can't guarantee it because it's, like I said, it's a really janky contraption I made, but hopefully it works. It might not, but I hope it does. All right, oil filter's off. It was actually kind of successful using the aluminum foil to avoid the exhaust. I don't think I got anything on the exhaust, but now I can, of course, take this off of the wrench, which would have probably been easier on the bike, but I'm gonna figure out a way to get this off, and then we can get the new oil filter. All right, new oil filter right here. Of course, first things first, I'm gonna get some oil from the old oil, well, some old oil, and put it on the O-ring right here, just like you always do for everything. Once that is fully lubed up, I can put it on the bike again. All right, oil filter's on. I haven't tightened it fully just yet because I need to get the torque spec, but to get the torque spec, actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check this BMW S1000XR service manual. This is not official BMW. This is actually made by somebody on the forums, Mark Barrett. If you want one, go to this website. Not sponsoring the channel, but a really cool little thing that I have. So useful. It gives you all the insight and everything you need to know about the S1000XR when it comes to servicing the bike. Really neat, so I'm gonna see if I can find the torque spec for the drain plug and the oil filter housing in this book. If not, I'll look it up, but I hope that it should be somewhere in here. All right, here it is. I got the sump plug, which is probably, I assume, the drain plug. It's 28 Newton meters and the oil filter is 11 Newton meters. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my digital torque wrench and set this to 11 Newton meters. All right, 11 Newton meters, let's torque this thing down. Wow, okay, so this has a pretty low tolerance. It's already on 11 Newton meters. That's not that bad. Now we can finally move on to putting the drain plug back on. All right, so this is gonna be 28 Newton meters. Gonna go ahead and start tightening this down until I hear the beep. All right, now it's time for the oil. Gonna go ahead and get my, of course, 5W40 and put 3.5 liters. So I'm gonna put 3.5 of these guys in it. Let's do this. I'm really excited. All right, I just put 3.5 liters, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this back on. Of course, there's no torque spec for this guy, but I'm gonna put this on, and then once this is on nice and tight, we can, okay, once that's on nice and tight, we can go ahead, start the bike, and check to see if everything runs correctly. All right, I've put everything back in, 3.5 liters of oil. I've torqued down, well, not torqued down, but I've tightened down the little fill cap right there. Everything is torqued down. I haven't put the front fairings on yet, just to make sure to check everything is in the right spot and totally right. So I'm gonna go ahead, turn it on, let it get warm, and then check to see if everything is correct. And then we can go ahead and, of course, remove the service indicator light. All right, engine oil is done. Everything is on. I turned it on and it did sound pretty good actually. Only thing is I heard like a really slight little, which I don't think I heard before, but I did everything correctly, so I don't know what it is. It probably just needs time for the oil to circulate around the entire engine because I did let it drip out pretty much entirely. I left it for like 20 or 30 minutes just dripping, and the engine oil was warm. So it was probably completely empty. So it's probably taking time for the engine oil to go all the way around. But other than that, everything looks and sounds perfectly. There's no leaks at all. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put the front lower fairings back on. Once that's on, I'm gonna get my Hex GS911 tool and I'm gonna plug it in and start trying to remove the service indicator light. All right, so now is time to reset the light. It's a very simple process, but you are gonna need a diagnostics tool. There's a lot on the market, but I am going to be using, like I said, the Hex GS911. This is the software for it. I'm gonna screen record this so that y'all can see it. And of course, what I'm doing as well. It's pretty simple. I'm gonna go right here, of course, take the seat off, and right here, you're gonna take this guy out, and you're going to unplug or uncap this. There we go, just unscrew and pull it off, and then you have this connector right here. I'm going to grab my tool, which like I said, is the GS911, Hex GS911, but you don't need this one, you can use many others. And I'm gonna plug this right into here. All right, gonna go ahead and plug that in. Screwed right in. Perfect. Now let's go over to the computer and see what it says. All right, here I am in the Hex GS911. You don't have to use this exact tool, like I said. You can use any various tool, but this is just the one that I happen to have, so it's what I'm gonna be using. I'm gonna click on detect the vehicle. Of course, my key is on the on position, not, engine not running, but ignition on, and everything is plugged in. And then I'm gonna go over to service reminder vehicle functions, click on service reminder functions, reset service reminder, and all I will do is set service reminder. There we go, done. That's it. That's literally all you have to do. It's so simple. At least with this tool. I don't know about other tools and how to use those, but that's how to do it on this. That's it. It's really simple. But that is about it. Honestly, the service reminder is now reset. The bike's oil has been changed and everything looks and sounds great. I'm really happy. It was a really simple process, especially the coding process. Really easy, really simple, but you gotta get yourself a tool. Not saying that you have to get this specific tool, but you gotta get yourself a tool at least to be able to code the service reminder off on this bike. Only thing left, of course, is for you guys to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you get notified when I drop the next video about this bike, the M4, the Mini, or my F10 535i, because there's a lot of content coming. But like I said, that is about it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all in the next one. Take care.
We're dreaming